Welcome to Fatherhood Unity Month. I'm with Carnell Smith, the paternity doctor, my man, the coach. My name is Kelvin Mann, president and founder of Good Fathers Only and Encourage Me, I'm Young. This event is sponsored by United Way and Campaign for Black Male Achievement. Thank you, Carnell, for coming on. I truly appreciate you. So I really want you to give your backstory because, since we met, I've always been excited about the story of your victory with the Supreme Court and how this led you into what you're doing today.
Well, sure thing, Calvin. Hey, it's been a while since I saw you there in Michigan.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show. My story, somewhat like a lot of guys, in fact, a lot of men and teen boys. Some months after I broke up with a former girlfriend, I got a phone call, and she was telling me all this news, and she was saying, "I'm pregnant." And my first answer back to her was, "Congratulations! I hope you and your baby's daddy be very happy." But the next question I asked her, so why are you calling me?
Right.
And then she said, "But you're the father." And I paid child support for 11 years, man, until I found out that was a lie. And my pastor's father talked me into taking a DNA test right after the court awarded my child support to be about 40% of my take-home pay. By then, I'm married, working 60 hours a week on call 24/7, and 40% of my take-home pay was going to bankrupt me and leave me with a newborn wife. I was looking at becoming homeless. But then I got the DNA test and got the test, and the test result says 0.0% paternity. And in my mind, Calvin, I thought, oh man, this is over, because I'm not going to pay another dime. Oh, that's not how it works. I got to family court, and the judge said, "It's your fault. You didn't find out sooner." And he left that order in place. And it was, if I didn't do anything, it would have stayed that way. So, Calvin, I'm a radical kind of guy. I felt like that was an injustice, especially after I found out that the real guy is her former boyfriend who lived in another state. I figured, well, he's the one that had the fund, and he's the guy should be paying. And he should, let's just switch names, give me a pen, scratch my name out.
Right, and put his in.
Put his in and let him pay. I mean, he did it. Well, I appealed to the Georgia Court of Appeals, Georgia Supreme Court. By now, I got the data that shows that over 35,000 guys, men and teen boys in my state, they weren't the dads either. I get an attorney. The lawyer says, we got less than 50% chance of winning, and we now have 2 DNA tests. So the high court in Georgia, the Court of Appeals said, no, you can't appeal it. And according to most people, your story's supposed to be over. I wasn't willing to accept that, so I appealed it to the United States Supreme Court, so AKA the Supreme Court of the U.S., or SCOTUS. And by this time, I've now got legislation started in Georgia. I've managed to get it passed in half of the House of Representatives. And the U.S. Supreme Court heard about that because I had to disclose it, and they wanted a copy of the legislation. So we had 2 meetings with the justices over it, and then they sent me back a letter saying petition denied.
Yeah.
Now, Calvin, at that point, you would think it's supposed to be over.
Right.
You've appealed to the highest court in the land, that's supposed to be over. Well, I continue to push for legislation. We got it passed. The governor signed it. I got about 99.7% of the legislature and the governor to support the bill. And then I remembered something I wrote as a legislation, and I went back to court using the law that I helped write, and then I won after the Supreme Court told me no. That's supposed to be impossible, Calvin.
Nothing is impossible. Nothing.
Not with God.
Not with God. Nothing is impossible. The truth is everything. And so that right there is it's there are several people who can attest to that story. There are a lot of men who can attest to that story. So let's really get into the statistics and you know what you do now and all.
Sure. All right. So as you can see in my little background, right, that says Carnell Smith Paternity Coach.
Yeah. I'm loving that.
So, and that's a lot of the networks that I've been on. In fact, so I've become the international spokesman, and I'm also an advisor to the 501c3 organization of Women Against Paternity Fraud. And that's because it's about 80 to 90% women who contact me trying to help guys like me, husbands, boyfriends, sons, teens, all of them, because once they're in this situation, Calvin, they are trapped by law. You know, they've been tricked to get into the system, but now they're trapped by the law. And I felt that should require reform. So what I do now as the paternity coach, also called the truthologist, I help men, women, and families identify the truth about family relationships. And then once you know the truth, you usually want to do something about it. Either you are, and then you want to get protected rights to be able to see the kid, or you're not, and you want to hand the bill to the guy that had the fun. So that's called recover the truth. And then there's those cases where you want to actually change the laws because that's your only option, like what I had. And I call that advocate for the truth. And that's based on the fact now that according to the accredited labs, over 110,000 men and boys per year, every year now since about 2000, turn out to not be the fathers that somebody, the mother, said that he was. So what that tells me, Calvin, either there's a percentage of moms who are accidentally picking the wrong guy, or they are intentionally picking the wrong guy. And that comes out to be 1 out of 3 guys who get a test. Now, in my book, that's a problem. The
Right.
data says so. And it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Indian, Native American, doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make a difference.
And you know what? When I went to court, you know, they made me swear to tell the truth about my finances, about how much I make, how much I got paid on at my side business, how much I got paid on my bonuses. And if I had lied about that, you know, they would have strung me up.
Yeah, because the one thing, you know, I was having this conversation with my brother, right? Like, they get to go to court, and, you know, with us doing this Metro Detroit fatherhood policy group, we're looking at that because you can't go to court and tell a lie. They can go to court and tell multiple lies. Like, they're going in court and tell a lie, this lie, this lie, this lie, this lie, this lie. I mean, by the time you get through the 7th, 8th lie or game, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's another problem.
You're so right. You're so right. You know, part of also what drove me to be adamant. I mean, 100% adamant that I have to be outside of the court system once I know that this is a pregnancy that I didn't commit. And that is, every time I went to court before I found out I wasn't the dad, my parenting time got cut. Now, before, we used to get along and everybody was social and cordial. I had unlimited parenting time until she called me and says, well, I've been talking to my girlfriends, and according to my girlfriends, you don't pay enough in child support. I'm like, I don't care what your girlfriend thinks. I'm going by my net pay.
Right. And so your time get cut based on how much you paying. Right, and don't realize how important that time is.
So what that shows me is the so-called father-child relationship is only important based on maximum amount of child support that he pays and minimum contact with the child. And I'm like, well, how could you be an active father and have and be a good father and have influence and a guiding hand in the child's life if you can't see the child? Now, complicate that. You can't see the child. You went from unlimited parenting time to once every other week to once every other weekend. Then you found out you're not even the dad, and you haven't been allowed to see the kid for 6 weeks after you done found out now that you're not even related. Why would you stay in that system for 40% of your take-home pay? And my position is nobody should have to make that choice. No man, no teenager. And by the way, if you're a parent of a teenager who this happens to, you're the grandparents, your pockets are going to get tapped too. So why is the truth only relevant on one side?
Right.
And that is the rub. That's the injustice. But there are so many ways that men and boys can get caught in what I call a trap. Right now, even in Michigan and other states, and in my home state in Georgia as well, that if the child support agency sends a request for you to take a DNA test, even though you know you didn't cause this woman's pregnancy, in fact, you may not have never touched her, and you skip that hearing, a decision is now going to be made, and you're going to be his daddy by default. And because you skipped that hearing and you didn't make your request for a DNA test in writing, you are banned from getting a DNA test forever. That sounds like tricked and trapped.
Oh, you in the bag.
Tricked and trapped.
You in the bag. I know dudes. I know situations where you getting 2 child supports because of that.
I know 3. I actually got a case. This guy's sister saw me on television and contacted me because her brother was one of the 3 men who were paying child support for a pair of twins. And let me tell you how it works. And this won't surprise you, but the audience needs to be educated about this. So here's how it worked. The woman had been married before. Her ex-husband was paying child support for the twins because he thought, look, and because he was married to her, he was already guilty by the marital presumption. So they were automatically his just because he was married.
Married to her, yeah.
So he was paying her child support for the twins. Her ex-boyfriend, she threatened to put him on child support, but made him a deal. If I put you on child support, they're gonna make you pay $1,500. But if you work it out with me, you only gotta pay $800. So you know what he did, Calvin?
He paid the $800.
He paid the $800.
Right. He paid the $800.
And the third guy, she made that deal with him too, and he was the new boyfriend. So what does that tell you? That during that window of conception, she's been dealing with all of these guys. That's how all of the guys thought they were the daddy.
Yep. Got him.
And lo and behold, look, and DNA tested proved that guy, what his sister believed, everything she said, I know this game. I've seen my girlfriends run this game. My brother can't be those kids' daddy. And sure enough, DNA said, yep, it's not him. And because there was no court order, he was able to get out of it. But he should have sued her for fraud.
He should have sued her for fraud. That's where it has to go. You should sue her for fraud. Make sure that you recoup. And you know, right now there are a number of we're shifting some of the information here in Michigan. So now, you know, we're down to a 1-sheeter now for paying off back arrearage. So now you can get out of a 1-sheet. It used to be like a Bible, you know, it had all these words. So we got the form reduced down to 1 sheet, right? So now if you need to go in and, you know, get the back child support off, is now 1 sheet. We're working on the shared parenting again. I'm hoping that we can really make some inroads in that area. The piece, Carnell, that really is amazing is, as we're discussing, we do not realize the trauma that happens to fall on the children.
Oh, I do. Look, I recognize it because the kid is impacted. And in fact, once we found out the little girl that I thought was mine, I asked, could we still see her? Because my family has been fully invested in her for 11 years. Look, my family loves her. I loved her. Look, my wife and the ex-girlfriend ended up at the same, working in the same building. My wife used to give her the child support check for me. That's how everybody got along until she got greedy. And then I had my pastor's dad talk me into taking the test. But even the impact here for the kids. So let's talk about it for a second. A kid who has had a relationship with this guy finds out this guy is not really my dad. You know what a lot of them do? They still want to know who's their daddy. They still look, they love the guy who has been in their life, and if he's given the opportunity to still be a father figure, to participate, and by the way, that should be his choice, okay? But I think there's a counseling opportunity there for the child,
Oh yeah.
For the other people, for the relations impacted. But what I find across the nation, there is zero compassion for the guy who in some cases has been to jail, has been to prison for child support for a kid that is not even his. You want to talk about somebody with some anger, Calvin, you don't know the half. When I went to one of my county jails and found out that nearly 40% of the guys that were in the jail were there for child support arrears. And then I started asking this little radical question. I said, so how many of you guys know for sure that that child is yours? Most of them didn't know for sure. And then several of them said, man, I tried to get a paternity test and the judge is saying it's too late. And it's your fault you didn't find out sooner.
Destroying their lives to try to be fathers to a child is not even theirs.
And that leads to drinking, misuse of drugs,
everything.
And it messed some of them up so bad, Calvin.
Yeah.
They won't get into a close relationship at all after that.
No.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I know that's a wrong position to take, but I completely understand where they are.
Yeah, it's tough. I know a few people who have gone through it, and watching it, it was very, very, very tough, right? And very, very tough. I spent a lot of time, right, as a friend with some friends and family members who have gone through it, and it was just amazing that was no harm. It's like I was telling you before. Over the last couple of years, over 20 men called the phone, wanted to kill, right? To get into, go ahead.
I got cases where that actually happened though. Look, it's one thing to be in this situation and you're so angry and enraged that you want to do bodily harm. I know of cases where it actually happened. And it played out behind this kind of scenario. The woman got in his face and says, so what? The baby ain't yours. I got you on child support. You better have my money. I'll have you locked up. And that was a whole lot more than he was willing to take.
Yeah. No, we've seen it. I've seen it. Like I said, I'm a very, over these last 20 years, I've seen a lot of the cases. I've witnessed a lot of cases, and so and I think a lot of times, right? The other day we had Dr. Chandra Carl, and she did her dissertation on how important fathers were, and she echoed the same sentiment that she doesn't think that fathers intentionally want to be deadbeats with their kids.
Oh man, you and I both know when you have a judge imputing child support for what the judge says he has to pay based on an amount of money he hasn't even made, and in some cases never made.
Yeah.
Because I've I've been to court and used to provide DNA services on site at multiple county courthouses, and I would see a guy get assigned $100,000 arrears child support, and the guy had even made $100,000 in the last 10 years. Now think about that. If you couldn't have even grossed that amount of money, if he had even been in a relationship with the kid's mom, there's no way he would have paid that amount. Think about that. And like that, there's some problems with that, but a lot of people make a crucial error in trying to advocate for themselves in front of the family court without a very clear understanding of what their rights are, what the law is, what their real options are with child support. And some of these guys will agree while they're in front of the judge, say the judge says, if you don't do X, I'm gonna lock you up, and he'll agree to that, and then try to get out of the courtroom and figure out how to pay it. And you and I both know what happens if he doesn't pay it. The first thing they come back and say, but Your Honor, this is what he agreed to. No, never mind that he was bullied, he was intimidated, he didn't know his rights, and they're like, well, you are not entitled to any representation.
Just crushing them.
And yeah,
just crushing
and
them.
I mean, I've seen a couple of people. I participated in some of their film projects, like the Child Support Hustle. I'm like, this is a straight up game. Now, yes, there was a necessary time for reform to where guys who really are the dad skipped, paid as little as possible, quit jobs and all kind of stuff. But you don't hold the whole group responsible for the conduct of the few. You with me? Right. You should take punitive actions with the offenders, but not treat the entire group of people and that imputing income against people for more money than they have actually grossed. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It really damages. So now you kind of look like, here's a question. Where do you think this mindset with women comes from?
Well, I'm going to say it doesn't occur with all women, but I will say what I have found in common and observed over the last 20 plus years. Mothers are picking what I call, they're picking the father after conception. She's picking the daddy she wants it to be, because this the dude I love, this the guy who makes the most money, or a combination of the two. And then there are those who are actually making a mistake, and what I call, they're doing parallel dating, and they're not telling everybody else who's involved. I'll cite you an example. For example, the woman who's married, she knows she's married, but her husband might know she also has 2 boyfriends. And since she's the only one that knows that, he is not going to ask for a paternity test, right? And especially in like Michigan and a bunch of other states as well, saying, well, if she has a baby while she's married to you, whether you deployed in Afghanistan or she's in Michigan and you're in Florida, that's still your baby. Now, some of those moms are scandalous too and have an entitlement mindset that is all about me. There's a narcissistic tendency that, well, his job is to do what I say he's supposed to do. I did a show once, and the host was a woman, the production staff was a woman, and everybody thought that I was going to be on the side for men just because I was a guy, and then they found out they were wrong. I'm on the side for what's right, okay? If the guy is the dad or he adopted a kid, he has a duty and obligation to help support the kid, all right? I said help. Help is a whole lot different than pay for everything, all right? And what those ladies found out was there's preconceived notions that people sometimes want to stereotype and say, well, all black women are X. That's wrong. All black men are X, and that's wrong as well. Now, are there some generalities? Yeah, but what my experience is, a lot of the women are picking the guy she wants it to be, and will ignore the facts. Anybody she has relationships with during a 60-day window around that child's conception, that person could be the daddy. And I've had them tell me, but Mr. Smith, I believe in my heart. I'm like, girl, your heart will lie to you. And then when I use my ABCs of paternity, and I say, listen, disclose everybody you was involved with between this date and this date. Once I find out what the conception date is for the kid, the birth date is for the kid, how old was the kid at birth, meaning you get different calculations based on whether that baby was born at 36 weeks or at 42 weeks. And with that wide variance, anybody that she's been involved with could be the dad. And I've had ladies tell me when we do DNA testing, Mr. Smith, it's this guy that can't be nobody else. Well, 3 guys later, it's the guy she doesn't want it to be, and this guy is excited to be the daddy.
Right. Right. I'm happy to
but
be.
The guy who she wanted to use that baby to get him to propose to her, it wasn't him, and he dipped.
So that we know, no problem, bro. We know that it's when you look at it, we know that no one is innocent, right? Because irresponsibility is irresponsibility, no matter how we look at it. You know, if I'm complicit, you know, if I'm complicit, you know, I know that I'm with this person, you know, being irresponsible, I put myself in the game, right? If they are complicit, knowing that they had a spouse, right, you put yourself in the game, right? Talk about.
But the problem is they don't always disclose, though, Calvin.
No,
and
they
this
don't.
is why I say, this is why I call it paternity fraud. Between the mother and everybody who she says is a paternity candidate, in many cases, she's the only one knows there's more than one person. Family court doesn't require her to disclose that information to all the guys she's about to say is the daddy. So they test the guys one at a time and swear under oath that's the only one. Now, come on, Calvin, when we got cases where 16 guys end up being tested, and after the 16th guy, we still ain't found the daddy. And by the way, that's not rare. That's not rare.
It's not. It's not.
That just means this is a mom who has a high sex drive, okay? And I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is being honest about the disclosure. So my solution, which I am hated for, is we don't need to be asking nobody else about who you think is your baby daddy. Let's do that DNA test at birth.
Yes, sir.
We'll take all the emotional, you know, snookerism, trickiness, hide information. We'll take all of that out of the equation.
Yes, sir. That needs to be a national campaign.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
I got that idea from a woman who was the head of a national child support agency, a statewide child support enforcement agency. And she said that it wasn't fair to make a woman put her husband down as the father when her boyfriend, who she was living with, was the daddy. Well, I said, well, it makes perfect sense to me. That's called personal responsibility. And you know what? People attacked me, Calvin, and said, but you're against women. I'm like, how the heck I'm against women? I had 6 sisters. I got a wife. I got a daughter.
Yeah, you know you're against, come on, Carnell. You're against women because that DNA test is going to be truthful. So
exactly.
That takes that stuff away. You know, that takes away all your little games, your little hidden jewels, we know, right? And it's only fair because, you know, that gets back to the testing. So the CVS over-the-counter kits, the over-the-counter kit statistics from 2 years ago was?
Well, That's the home test, and people need to know something about the home test. All right, you cannot use those results no matter what for a legal reason. So if you turn out to be the dad, you want to use that to establish that you're the dad, so you can get parenting time, legitimate the kid. If you wasn't married, you can't use that test.
Right.
If it turned out you're not the dad, you trying to overturn a child support order, you can't use that test.
You got to go through the legal, but at least you know.
But here's the thing: if you're gonna end up having to get two tests, because if it's not what you expect, and then you're going to try to do something with those results to either establish some rights or overturn a court order, you need some results that'll stand up in court that can be independently verified outside of you, okay? But with the home kit, nobody can verify whose samples you sent in. So if you grab the neighbor's kid, swab yourself and the neighbor's kid and sent that in, as long as you haven't been dealing with the neighbor,
you got a good chance.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother level of fraud there too, right?
Yeah.
Regrettably, you can use the test, but you have to be fully aware there are shortcomings that you may end up needing the legal test anyway, if you are the dad and if you're not the dad. So my position is, if I'm going to do the test one time, I'm going to get the one that I can use that the test will stand up independent of me, right? And unfortunately, people will look at the home kit test and say, well, you know, I'll buy the kit for $25. I'll pay the $110 for the testing fee, and I'm good. I'm like, yeah, till you get results that you're not expecting, and you now need to assert some legal action. Now you got a problem. Because what if she refuses to let you see the kid again now so you can get the legal test? Or get a restraining order and said you are a threat and a danger to her. And now with that restraining order in place, how you going to get a test now if a court refuses to order one?
Boy, they be up on that game, man.
Yeah. And look, I'm not supposed to know about this, but you and I both know this comes right back to what we said in the beginning about repetitive lies that happen. And very few, if any, consequences tend to occur for moms that lie on whether it's false allegations of domestic violence, false allegations of sexual assault, false allegations of paternity, false allegations. Now, everybody doesn't do it, but our expectancy is that if the judge is called a trier of fact, then Judge, Your Honor, let's order the test, not some of the time, all of the time, and then that guy can make an informed decision based on him having the truth in his hand. And if I tell him, dude, I know you love her, that's your boo from back in the day, and she was a church girl and everything. However, you didn't know she was Freak of the Week. I'm sorry. You know, my apologies on that. But it was actually 6 of y'all that could be the daddy. And I know you love the kid and everything, but if you stay in this child support order, she can marry the baby daddy, and you will pay both of them to raise their own kid. And we got a case of that in Michigan. That actually happened.
Yeah, I know exactly the case you're talking about too.
Yeah, you know, Doug. Yeah. So, so using those kind of conditions, our position is, if y'all are so concerned about kids, then why don't we just help kids get the truth? Because I've seen plenty of kids, and I've tested kids as old as 50 years old. You hear me? Who still wanted to know who their daddy was, and their mama refused to tell them.
Oh man, I get a call. It's a friend. Mom passed away. Dad's still alive. Calls dead and got a whole nother story.
Yeah.
It is amazing how this society, how we have gotten to the place that we've gotten to, that we only value the sense of family, but not the one truth, the real essence of let's make sure everything is right. It is
Hey,
almost, it, I, you just cannot explain or be clear enough. This is why we're talking about fatherhood, because there are
well,
so
guess
many
what?
fathers
See,
impacted.
you and I believe fatherhood means dad actually being involved.
Yes,
Dad's actually having a guiding hand because we relate to kids differently than moms, and kids need both of them.
both of them.
But here's what a lot of them reduce us to.
And money. And
And look, a guy who might be underemployed might be helping mom save money on child care expenses, and he's with the kid. He's picking the kid up. He's doing all kind of stuff for the kid, and he won't get any credit for that.
none.
If he can't hand these over, deadbeat. And I'm like, no, dead broke. And that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah, entirely different. It's so important to get out of that mindset because, yeah, right. The conversation becomes, did not do everything for you, did not give you everything. Yeah, you gave me, but you didn't give me. You
Right.
didn't make sure that I had my dad. You didn't make sure that there was no cooperation so my dad can be involved, right? And vice versa. There, we know men can be tough. We get it. But
Oh yeah.
it's very, very heavy for the children. And this is the main
Agreed.
this is one of the main reasons why we have to celebrate fatherhood. This is why I'm doing what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing, is because we have to celebrate fatherhood. When we come through stories like that, your story,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
increased, not only did that say something about you, but it increased your value. It took you to another level. It said, not only are you just Carnell Smith, who fought to be a father, who fought to get himself out of a situation that wasn't right. Now it says Carnell Smith, the daddy, the mom, the good man, the real good, and here's his value. How valuable are you, right? And so it's for us to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
determine our own value. The question that was asked to me today, I was speaking in Britain, and the question he asked me today was, what would you tell a new and young father?
All right. Speaking as a dad, and I'm also a grandfather. Okay. And look, and I did a DNA test on the kid with my wife. Not because I suspected anything,
Right.
but because of the way the law works, I needed peace of mind that after I overturned my case with that ex, that I was never going to have to deal with that situation again.
Again. That's right. That's right.
So my advice to new father, I'm like, you can trust all you want to, but you need to verify what you've been told with a DNA paternity test to be sure before you hand over a dime. Because if you start paying before you find out, even that will be used against you. But Your Honor, he made an agreement to support the kid. I'm like, no, I made an agreement to support a child that's mine. All right? So step one, determine what the facts are. Step two, you need to not rely on verbal assurances about your ability to see the child is going to last forever. Because there are times where you start out even in cordial, friendly relationships on an informal agreement, and then that changes when all of a sudden mom gets a new dude and they decide together they're going to cut you out. You need to establish yourself with a legal, protected role as the biological, legitimate legal father, as in supporting and having a joint legal, joint physical custody of the child. That's my advice. If you do that from the beginning, and if everybody's getting along cordial, and they stay that way, you're good. And y'all can always between you decide, well, he can have the kid more often than that. He can't change the amount that he pays now outside of what that court order is. All right. But if at a minimum you establish what your custodial relationship is after you've identified, or am I actually related to this child? Then if y'all want to decide what a parenting agreement is that you both agree on, document that. Look, you don't always have to go to court to first fight it out. If everybody is cordial and civil, you can work out an agreement and then file that agreement with the court. Both of you need to know what the child support guidelines are for your state, and don't make a fatal mistake of assuming that how much you pay in child support equates to how much you love the kid. I've seen too many guys overcommit financially something that they cannot sustain. And what I mean by that, agreeing to some astronomical amount based on what she feels like you should pay, and like enough to buy brand new shoes and an entire wardrobe every month, month in, month out, 12 months a year. I'm like, you're being duped. But if you agree to it that way and you set it up that way, you're going to catch hell trying to modify it. I say, hey, find out what your real facts are, what your real finances are. Establish a budget. Live within your means. In fact, live below your means. You know what I mean?
Right.
And save money so that you can do things with the child while the child is in your custody. But if you agree to pay so much money to the child that you can do nothing with the child while you have the child in your custody, but look at them at your house and you can't even take them to the store to get ice cream because after you done paid that astronomical amount that you agreed to, you're tapped. Well, then that sets the stage for a narcissistic parent says that, well, you know, you never have fun when you go with your daddy. So next thing that leads to is,
Woo.
well, next thing that leads to is, well, your kid don't want to go with you because now the kid is being enticed with doing more fun things with that high amount payment that you're handing over. And now the kid is being used against you. So now you're paying the most, getting the least, no contact, no influence, no participation. And yet there's people who have the audacity to still want to call you a deadbeat dad. That's the advice I would give. And then the last piece I would give, Calvin, is if you have problems at any time with exercising your parenting time with your child, you must take immediate action to file contempt each and every time. And then if there's a pattern, pursue a change of custody. And if you do obtain a change in custody, don't be the same idiot who tries to use the kid against the other parent. Be the parent who helps the kid have a sustained relationship with both sides of their family.
Well,
did I say a mouthful?
You said a mouthful. You actually, man, it's really, Carnell, it's really just important how, you know, like I'm always talking about, you know, the guys that swerving down their players, the whole nine. When you in this game, you getting played. Don't think you winning, right? So you gotta really, you know, let's narrow this focus. Let's get to where we really need to be. That information is powerful. The over-the-counter information came back about the 40% not being right, but like you said, it could be, you know, questioned and getting the one test from the court, making sure you get that court test. It's important to get that court test.
Actually, look, it's not getting it at court that makes it a legal test. Listen, a legal test is when the samples are collected by a neutral third party. You have to show proof of ID. The person who's taking the samples is not related to you, has no stake in the outcome of the case. They record your identification. They sign a sworn affidavit. They photograph you. Guess what? When I was doing DNA tests for over 10 years with Identigene DNA Diagnostics as my business partner, I fingerprinted you and the kid. And if it was a brand new baby, I did a heel print on the baby too. They did heel prints at the hospital. Look, I could do proof about who I did DNA samples on in that day. And then I actually end up in court as expert witness because moms would try to claim that wasn't their kid. Didn't know I was the guy who did the DNA samples. So legal is not just because it happens in court. Legal is a process to where full chain of custody from the time those samples get collected, identity verified of the parties, and it's followed all the way through the whole chain of testing at the lab, all the way up to delivery of the results report.
And there you have it.
And the public doesn't know this at large.
Well, we're going to make sure that everybody that in our circle is going to know it, right? We're going to make sure that the information is shared. Carnell, once again, we did it again, man. I really appreciate your time. Tell everybody where they can reach you at. I know you with us. I know you with us, so I know where we can reach you at, but tell everybody where they can reach you at.
Well, first, I thank you for letting me be on Good Fathers with you. I believe in good fathers. Hey, being a dad, a grandfather, I believe dads add value to the lives of their kids in a different way.
Yes.
So how you can find me, my name, CarnellSmith.com. CarnellSmith.com. That's CarnellSmith.com. I am the original paternity coach. I'm the man for justice, being able to get laws changed in more than 7 states. I've actually testified for legislative change there in Lansing. We were unsuccessful because the Senate was bent on not allowing men. In fact, a couple of particular senators there were not willing to concede the facts that some percentage of moms don't tell the truth. So why not let the court make their own independent judgment based on the test, which is more reliable than asking somebody who caused your pregnancy.
Yeah. They fighting for that one, brother. They're going to fight for that one.
And you guys are still fighting.
Yeah. But I think we're, in the long run, we got quite a few allies. I think we're going to get some things done.
And Jim Runestad is a great ally.
Yeah, and he just passed it over to Bullock Marshall. So I think we're going to get some things done. And, of course, man, again, I appreciate you coming on for Fatherhood Unity Month, the reason where we celebrate just increasing the people's value with that information. I appreciate you, man. I love you, love your family, man. Continue this great work. And this has been Fatherhood Unity Month with Carnell Smith. My name is Kelvin Mann, president and founder of Good Fathers Only and Encourage Me, I'm Young. This has been brought to you by Southeastern Michigan United Way and Campaign for Black Male Achievement. Good night.